All right. Well, welcome to Conversations, where today we have Alex Gabbert, Brand Communications Director of Publicity For Good, a PR firm that has amplified over 400 purpose-driven brands globally. He has a 10-year background in scaling sales teams in both business to business and business to consumer. Alex is a multi-time national award winner in sales and leadership. Alex is the father of two. You have a boy and a girl under the age of 3. You are a busy leader, Alex. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Dr. Kelly. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. How is Nashville treating you?
I tell you what, before we moved our headquarters here, I had never driven through Nashville. I had never been here on vacation, so I had no idea what to expect. We had been living in Las Vegas for the last 5 years, but I grew up on a farm in North Dakota, so I love outdoors and greenery, and I got here, and it's heaven.
It's heaven.
No joke. This morning I was having coffee on the porch and there were deer in my front lawn. I was just like, oh,
Gosh.
great people, beautiful environment, great food. No complaints. It's been a couple months here now, but I like it a lot.
Oh, that's good. I hear that a lot from people who move there. It's just they love Nashville. Who knew? It is the place to be.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, today we're going to be talking about sales and leadership. And from my experience, and we had this conversation before about how people really, when they think of sales, they think of, cringy, and they may be building a business or part of an organization. And they never realize that sales is actually part of what they do. And I'd love to hear how sales has been a passion for you. Like, where did that even come from?
Oh my goodness. I think sales really ties into everything, but I guess segueing into the redefinition of sales has given me everything. Okay. I grew up an introverted farm kid, right? I didn't know what I was going to do. And it has given me confidence. It has allowed me to travel the world. It has let me live opportunities that most people, wouldn't think are possible. It has allowed me to impact the lives of others and therefore their families. It has allowed me to put a positive ripple into the world. I love sales, so I will happily dive into the stigmas and the fun things that get, I would say, negatively glamorized, in movies. I mean, it's funny, right? You see the used car salesman kind of thing.
Right.
I get it. I get the hard, pushy person. But I think it would make sense to let's define what sales is. Okay. What sales actually is the transfer of energy and the transfer of certainty that solves the need that your product or service provides.
Wow.
That leads to the outcome that your service provides. Okay. I don't sell. Okay. I help people. I would not do something or represent something that I didn't know in my bones that I could talk about with conviction and be able to lay my head down at night knowing that I put positive things into the world. Right. But in the journey of a sales professional, are you going to come across some weird offices and things? Like, people come and go, or products come and go, right? But at the end of the day, you're developing a skill set that you're going to have for the rest of your life, right? That allows you to be a positive leader in your home, right? Talking about the transfer of energy, the transfer of certainty. Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Does it feel good to buy things?
Yes.
Does it feel good to be sold to?
So there's a difference there. No.
No, it feels dirty.
Yeah,
right?
it does feel dirty. And I totally, I will put a wall up if somebody is trying to sell me something.
Of course you will. Anyone would, right? That's human nature, okay? Being a sales professional is like being a good host, okay? I'm not going to invite people to my home and then say, would you like something to drink? Okay. Well, human nature is now going to be, well, I'm good. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm okay for now. Right. They want something to drink. Right. Our body is made of 70% water. So I would say, hey, guys, feel free to make yourself at home. Would you prefer water or lemonade? Right.
Totally different.
But now I'm becoming easy to accept it from. Right.
That's cool.
But accepting that it feels good to buy things that you've worked hard for, right? Feeling terrible to be sold to. So how do I have a conversation in which we kind of uncover why we're here in the first place, what problems there are, if this realistically solves your problem, right? And oftentimes when people are making a decision that's for the betterment of themselves, there's a component of fear,
Mm-hmm.
a component of what if this doesn't work, right? It's like, how do you become the person in a conversation, right, who is sharp, enthusiastic, and expert in your field? Where, imagine this, if you walk into a doctor's office and you tell the doctor, yeah, my knee's been making this weird popping noise, right? And it hurts all the time. But the doctor looks at you then and says, cool, put your arm in this sling for 6 months and then, right? You're going to be like,
what are you talking about?
To get a different doctor. Okay. Sales is also the art of being present in the moment and truly listening to what the person is saying. Because oftentimes in a conversation, you can tell when someone is just thinking about what they're going to say next, right? They start speaking immediately when you stop speaking. Is it enjoyable to speak to that person? Probably not, right? But it's also not a vanity metric. Getting good at this gives you the bandwidth to help more people, right? And I get that probably listeners are saying, yeah, well, I'm doing all these other components of my business, and I'm not a salesperson, right? Okay. Well, let's look at humor. Look at the room around you right now if you're listening to this, okay? The land that you're on right now, the building that you're in, the components that it's made of, the utility that's powering the light in the room that you're in right now, right? The style that went into the carpet. All of these different things came from someone's ability to create commerce out of thin air. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And we're so apt to buy, even we're giving our dollars to people that we don't even have a relationship with many times. And so it seems like when I look at you, I'm like, you are not a used car salesman. You are not a hardcore, buy this. You are just about developing relationship. And like you said, really listening. What is the problem that a person needs or an organization has? And so what you are saying is totally different than somebody who's looking at sales as one of those icky type things. And I like that.
100%. Because when you begin a conversation with a stranger, right, it behooves both of you to have a great ability to be able to quickly develop a relationship, right? Well, where does that start with? Okay. There are only 3 things that you're really in control of when it comes to selling. Okay. Everyone thinks complicated problems have complicated solutions. Nope, not in this case. Okay. All that you're really in control of is your attitude, which I'm a firm believer is a choice, but that's a whole different conversation. The words that come out of your mouth and the pace in which you work. That's it. Okay. So really polishing and understanding prior to entering an engagement, exactly all of the objections you're going to hear, right? From a sales professional, understanding exactly how to overcome them to get to the actual reason. Because people don't enter a conversation or an engagement in sales without hoping that that is the solution to whatever it is that they're dealing with. They want you to be the one, right? But at the same time, they're going to test you, right? So let's say you are running a sales team, right? I have some golden rules on any team that I run, especially here at Publicity For Good, right? Integrity is number one. If you lie, cheat, or steal, it's not even a conversation that we have if you're not on the sales team. But another is that you don't practice on prospects. I get consulted often where people will reach out to me and say, hey, can you just help me tune up this? Or how do I measure key performance indicators within my business to understand what could be better? And all of the practice that they're doing is on their customers.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a silly thing to do and such an opportunity cost for a business. So golden rule being don't practice on customers. So I'll provide materials of everything for that you could run into, how to overcome it to get to the truth. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the ability to genuinely communicate, create a space where someone can be vulnerable to share the truth, no one just opens up to a stranger, usually, right? And we have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason.
That's right. We sure do. As you're sitting here talking, I'm thinking about, like you said, people don't typically open up. I think even in sales, you have to create that space. In the work that I do, I have to create the space where someone feels welcome, that you're not going to be threatened by anything, by the conversation or by trying to develop a relationship. What does that look like for you in sales and creating that space for hopefully the work, the sale to be had and the work to be done?
In creating that space, okay, do a little slideshow in your head of what you picture as a salesman. Okay. Is that person serious and hard-nosed? Are they fast talking at you? Are they doing one of the, slimy things with their hands, right? All of those type of things. The art of being polished while not taking yourself so seriously is so important. You're allowed to have fun while you sell. You don't need to go into this, whatever you may perceive that it should be, right? It's a very simple thing in that it is very much a game of copycat all the way to the top. Most of the problems that you will see have been solved. Most of the things that you're worried about in scaling have been solved, but it's, the courage to seek help, right? Most people don't for fear of rejection, which is a thing in itself. My favorite word in the English language is no. Okay. Statistically, 80% of deals happen after the word no. All of the best things in my life have been given to me because I've embraced the word no. Have you ever had it where you're in a conversation with someone, they're like, I get this all the time. They're like, you're so happy. What do you do? And I don't say some title or anything like that. I'll literally tell them, I get told no with a positive attitude. And they look like I'm a crazy person. And then I'll say, have a great day.
I love that. But how did you get to that point? Are you naturally wired to be okay with rejection, to be okay with the word no? Because most people aren't.
My goodness, naturally wired for it. Okay. So what's interesting about rejection, whether it be face-to-face, over the phone, right, on a Zoom, when you receive rejection, it actually fires the same portions of the brain as getting punched in the face. You experience the same chemical reaction in your body.
Whoa.
Crazy, right? But in most people, it triggers one of two things. If you were to get punched in the face, which would be fight or flight. Most people are not wired for who are the best at it. We're actually the complete opposite. They were wired for flight. You could probably tell I'm like a diehard boxing fan, right? I know a lot of people who are fighters, and you talk to them and they're like, no, I hate getting hit. Like, but you would think that they're the ones who are like, so many things in life are the opposite of what people assume. But where I'm going with this is that for me, I saw people who had so much charisma and were living a life in which no one was telling them from day to day what they're worth. And to me, that's important. And I wanted to be like that. So I had a goal where I didn't want to feel that feeling of rejection, because when you're smiling with pain behind your eyes, right? Like it's so obvious, right? But your attitude is a muscle. So I accepted the fact that in order to toughen my mentality, same way as growing a muscle, I'm going to have to tear it. Okay. So day after day, I was in a sales room, and, they'll go around the room. What are your goals? And these other people would say, I want to do this today. And they would get to me. And again, all I would say is today, all I want to do is break my attitude. That's it. That's my one goal, is to push myself till it's gone through rejection. And I'll even do just rejection for fun. Like, that's how
Let's hear about that, Alex. Rejection and fun in the same sentence.
My wife, she just, sometimes she'll be like, oh, God. But just asking some ludicrous question where we are. Like, we were at the zoo here in Nashville, and you can pet the kangaroos, right? And there's a whole group of people, and everyone's having fun. Can't believe they're going to pull the kangaroo. So I'm petting a kangaroo, and I raise my hand and I say, hey, can I pick it up? Right? And they already said, like, you can't. But like, what'll blow your mind in life is you'll never get what you don't ask for. True. You can't sell a secret at the end of the day. But sometimes when you ask crazy things, like, people say yes. But like, for me, it's now kind of become a philosophy where anything that's, because we all get curveballs in life, right? With family, with personal, with work, with relationships. It's really given me an edge, I guess, in perseverance, in that I can always just say, just another no.
That's
so
right.
What do? I just keep going.
That's closer to your next yes.
Humans adapt to anything, right? People are living in Antarctica right now. Like, people are. Okay, so for me, that was my goal, is I wanted to get to a point where I could carry myself how I viewed these other people, right? I wanted to have that charisma, that ability to connect with other people. And first, I had to get over that, right? And it was through, like I said, that game of copycat, because a lot of things in sales, if you're struggling or you're going through a slump or you've plateaued with your business, okay, it's not necessarily needing to learn new information. Oftentimes, it's simply a reminder of the things that got you to where you were in the first place, right? But a few conversations that really changed me. Okay. So a little background on me. So I on being a professional golfer. So when I was like 5 years old to I was 19, like that, I was just laser focused. I've always had the focus, but I didn't have the other components to do what I do. And the ego is a wild thing. Okay. So I entered my first sales position when I'm 24, and I was about 30 days into it. And then I almost got fired This guy calls me into his office and he says, "You know what your problem is, Alex? You don't even know how to think like a winner. Get out of my office." Okay.
Yes. What?
Now,
Did you agree with that?
I got out of his office. At that point, I was a different, we're all a different human being every 3 years anyway, but a whole different person. But then something happened. Um, so as you can imagine, I walk out of that room and my ego immediately kicks in. And I'm like, he doesn't know me. I've accomplished this and this. Like, screw that guy. And the next day, I go out into the field and I'm like demoralized and
Of
like,
course.
right. And I had a moment. I remember where I was. I was working in San Diego on Rancho Penasquitas, and I was in this business plaza, and I'm like holding on to my products. And I'm wearing a suit and like just your classic, the
That's
Dorset guy. And the moment I had was a moment where I was like, what if he's right?
fine.
What if I don't know how to think like a winner? Okay, so in this moment, if I don't know how to think like a winner, all that I'm going to do today is allow myself to think the word win all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because I don't know what I'm supposed to be thinking, because apparently, what if he's right? Okay. No joke, Dr. Kelly. So that day, I hit what's called like ringing bell. It's where you hit a certain metric. Okay. And then I set the national record of the most consecutive days that had ever been done in 54. And then I broke my foot. Different story. But people were asking me, they're like, how are you doing this? And I was embarrassed to tell them, right? Because that's all I was doing all day long. In hindsight, it's very easy to understand what happened because I eliminated all negative thought,
Mm-hmm.
right? All of a sudden, you're walking taller, you're talking different, you're freeing yourself, you're having fun. But the ability to control your mind. But it was kind of through that process that the whole fear of rejection just goes away. And then once you really dial in your skill set, that's what allows you to be present in a conversation to where you don't feel rushed to be thinking about what you're going to say, and you can make it enjoyable for both of you. I don't know. That was all kind of an odd tangent. I'm not sure what the.
No, that's okay, because that tells that you care about, the last thing that you said, that you actually care about who's in front of you. Right. And I think that is part of sales and developing that relationship. But it's interesting that because of what somebody said to you, you could have taken that in two different directions. You chose to take it in, I am going to, take what was just said to me and put a positive spin on that. Now, whether or not your boss did that on purpose or not, because he knew that you would do that, or to get you going, I don't know. Do you happen to know the answer to that?
I wondered about that. It's like, did he know? Because he knew a bit about my background. Like, was that just him being seasoned and
Right.
and said he knew I needed in the moment, or was it? I don't know.
Well, it worked out for good.
But yeah, just the two things are often holding people back. It's fear and ego. If you can have that simple paradigm shift of, I don't sell, I help you, I
Totally
don't.
different.
That's more than likely, if you're listening to this, why you started your business in the first place, a product or service. Or maybe you had an idea that solved a problem for you in the moment. And then you decided, there's probably people
Other
out
people.
there, right?
That's right.
There's a million tips and tricks in getting in front of the right eyeballs and doing that. That's what I do for a living now. A lot of the time over my career has been spent in different facets of media and digital ads. I've worked in print. I've worked in radio. I've worked in billboards. I've worked in the mobile ID trackers. I've worked in all facets. Why I landed in PR is, I know firsthand that just dollar for dollar visibility purposes, having evergreen marketing materials and letting someone tell their story, which then ties in with your consumer and giving them that platform, it is the most effective form. And people look at media as just the eyeballs of that media outlet in that moment, right? That's not the power of PR. Let's say you're on, we do everything from, Good Morning America, Today Show to, Forbes, Business Insider to everything regional, Fox, ABC, CNN to even hyper local. Well, now you'll never not be the business as seen. So now it's on your website, your thumbnails, in your newsletter, your social media posts. Super excited to be featured in XYZ. See our thoughts on this. But cementing yourself as a thought leader, a go-to figure of authority, again, it's all the same. It's all the same thing. But hopefully, if that did give you the irk, right, you're still viewing sales as a tool of, I'm going to get someone. That's the reality. If you're the right fit for this profession.
Right. And just because somebody says no to you doesn't mean, that could be just not right now. I've had many, many no's where people have come back. And it's okay.
We don't know what's going on in people's lives.
That's right.
Their dog just got hit. They're going through a thing at home, thing at work. Who do they take it out on in general?
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Yes.
But yeah, there's an art to it's. A sales pitch isn't a pitch. It's a guide to a conversation that allows you to bring the most value in the time that you have.
A guide to a conversation. See, all these things that you're saying are totally opposite of what people typically think of with sales.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then, in your bio, you talked about how you've amplified over 400 plus purpose-driven brands globally.
Mm.
So when I see purpose-driven, it always piques my interest. So when you are working with people, why don't you talk a little bit about who you work with and how you see it as purpose-driven?
I love this question. Okay. So the media is notorious for trying to garner eyeballs through fear, negativity, the failure of others, right? These type of clickbaity type of things. Whereas at Publicity for Good, we love using our relationships, connections to put positive stories into the media in a very big way, combating something which is traditionally negative. So whether that be in health and wellness, sustainability, humanitarianism, oftentimes brands will want to have some sort of component like that for their brand that they don't really know how to develop for a cause that they're passionate about. And they'll say, hey, can you guys help us, develop this component to help in, things as powerful as, like child trafficking or cancer research or, these type of things, like using your powers for good.
Yeah.
It's this thing with when I'm training people, I'm saying like, this is very powerful, learning to steer a conversation in a direction toward an outcome, right? Like use it for good. But we love, putting those type of stories where they should be seen and connecting them with the right audience. Telling a brand story in a way that resonates with the most people, doing the most effective call to actions. And it's difficult to do on your own sometimes because you're too close to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to get that paralysis by analysis, we can just think ourselves into a hole. Um, so it's helping people dial in their brand story, getting them seeing where they should be. And then I just like the way that Publicity for Good operated. I hadn't seen anything like it. That's why I call it home. It's only earned media opportunities. So it's not like where people view PR as a pay to play type of thing.
Right.
Eliminated that. And there are a lot of other components to what we do that are unique. I guess for purposes of today, I probably don't want to turn this into like just talking about, PR, but I like being the face or salesperson, right? Of something that at the end of the day, I can master, duplicate, scale, knowing that in the long run, once I've built the machine, it's doing something with a purpose.
That's good. That is good. Well, Alex, I'd love to give you just what's the last word here? What's something that you would like to leave the audience with that would be important for you to communicate to them?
If anything that I've said today resonates with you in a way where it's like, okay, maybe I am practicing on the people that I could be helping, and I'm letting fear stop me from taking myself seriously. Sales is the engine of whatever we're doing, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's like, you need to be able to communicate effectively. So if you want help on that front, I often do that, but asalesmanagement.com. That's where you can find social media handles. You're going to see all sorts of fun stuff behind the scenes from our new Nashville location as well. This year will be our 10-year anniversary, so we'll be having a party. So if you follow, we're going to be inviting a bunch of people to come check it out. But publicityforgood.com, you can see case studies, who we've worked with, what we're all about as a team. So if you could use help on that front. But my message that I would like to leave at the end of this is yesterday doesn't matter. Tomorrow doesn't even exist. So today, to the best of your ability, control the 3 things you can control. And at the end of the day, it'll all come out in the wash and you'll become a happier human,
That's right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Alex, for really helping us change our thinking on sales and sales leadership. I appreciate you much for joining us on Conversations. Until next time, you keep doing great things, and we'll see you soon.
Maybe there are business owners who are like, okay, maybe I don't want to do this sales myself, and my time is better focused on these components of the business. And I'm looking to either hire a sales team or start building one myself for those type of things. Okay. The expectations of a leader in sales are usually what gets skewed and where things go wrong in the beginning and those first couple swings at finding the right person. Now, what I mean by that is if you can go into those relationships with the expectation that a new salesperson will do 200% of what I do wrong and 50% of what I do right. What I mean by that is the attitude that I show up with, right? The pace in which I work, how serious I am about mastering my craft, right? If I can keep that as an expectation, not only does it better me, which becomes contagious to the people around me, right? But it will, it's just been I've learned that lesson from a gentleman who I very much respected what he had built in his life and his home and his faith. And it served me very well. So if that's how you would want to include someone is at that point, because you want to ultimately create things that are duplicatable, scalable, but having the proper expectations as a leader, which then sets expectations on you, is what will cultivate successful relationships, because if we do it incorrectly, what's scary is people don't understand the responsibility of a sales leader, right? Because you're giving someone the opportunity that could change the trajectory of their entire life. Like God. And I'm so fortunate that I got that. And there were people who invested time and energy and were an example for me, right? But now it's your turn. Okay. So go into it with the proper expectations, give it the attention that it deserves, and that, that person could be like, oh yeah, I tried sales once, it just wasn't for me. I think I'm going to go work at whatever, right? Where they could have had this amazing, happy life of meeting new people and doing new things. But we decided to show up incorrectly repeatedly. It's not saying you have to always be perfect, but that was a nugget that's helped me very much.
I like that you are, you do have a purpose with your business, and that's refreshing. It's not just because I really liked everything that you said. Yeah, good stuff. 10 years, huh?
It's been more. I don't know. It goes fast. 2014, so 11 now. Because it was like Valentine's Day. 2014 was my first day.
Wow.
Yeah, walked in that room. My suit was way too big for me, and I was looking around. And it was just like, what are these people?
Yeah, but you took a chance.
Mm-hmm.
You took a chance on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you grew from there.
Everyone's telling you you're crazy, get something with benefits and this and that. And, about a year later, they're like, I knew you could do it. And then 10 years later, they're like, I don't know, it's funny. Influence is powerful, and choosing where you take it.
Yeah. But here's the thing, but everything that you talked about today with, caring and developing relationships and listening and all those wonderful attributes of a leader. And it doesn't matter if you are a leader in, this organization or if it's in sales. Those skills that you develop are super important.
It's kind of all the same thing. Am I muted? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. But it's all the same thing in that if you're in HR or you're in operations or you're in whatever it is, I don't know. I see it as the ability to be worth following, the ability to be positively contagious is so much more powerful than you put one of those people in a room of 100 negative people. Guess what's going to happen to that room? Those are my thoughts on it anyway.
Yeah.